In a world where most people watch movies and then forget about them, these brave heroes join forces to watch them again and then talk about them. Join them in their epic journey as they go back in time, a decade and beyond, to revisit and break down films from a vast array of genres. Do these movies hold up over time? Are they classics? Find out on Retro Movie Roundtable. Starring your hosts, Bryan Frye, Chad Robinson, Dustin Melbardis, Lizzie Haynes, and Russell Guest. Coming now to headphones in your ears.
Welcome all you lords, ladies, and knights of the Retro Movie Roundtable, where we watch movies and then talk about them. I'm your host, Dustin Melbardis, and joining me today is my good friend and co-host, Bryan Frye. Bryan, what's the fall event that you and your family have planned? Are you a pumpkin patch dad?
So we've done 2 pumpkin patches that has come and gone. We throw the neighborhood's sickest Halloween party.
Hey, sickest as it makes people sick in terror?
No, the kids love it. The adults love it. It's next Saturday. We're pumped. My daughter needs to actually decide on one Halloween costume. She's one of those, it's like Halloween-zilla. I'm trying to think of like a Bridezilla way to say this, but my daughter will be like, now I'm Elsa. Now I'm Ursula. Now, and she will just rotate. And periodically she'll be like, help me put this dress on. I'm like, all right.
Yeah, sure.
We're doing this.
All right. So I've got a thing with this, which is, I don't know where it comes from. And I'm actually going to bring our guest in earlier than introduction. Talk about a spooky zigzag is I've got a thing where if I'm going to wear a costume for Halloween, I want it to be scary. I don't want it to just be an outfit. So I did something one time when I didn't have like money to buy a costume. So I made a Where's Waldo outfit, like with a regular white sweater, and I was able to get stripes on it and I had the hat. But I'm like, but Where's Waldo isn't scary. So then I got my girlfriend to like make me a zombie. So I was Zombie Waldo. And so, hello, Marissa, we'll actually introduce you in a minute, but do you have that same feel where Halloween costumes should be scary?
I absolutely agree. So I've done a couple costumes over the, past couple of years, and not all of them have been explicitly scary, but I do find myself wanting to add a twist like that. I'll do like the spooky, like contacts or some kind of painted face or something just to add on, the spirit of Halloween, I think needs to be scary.
Yeah, I feel you there. And who is that talking? Well, coming to you from Austin, Texas, it's your special guest, Marissa Tusko. Marissa, are you also a pumpkin patch gal?
I do like a good pumpkin patch. As far as like live Halloween activities, I usually don't do a lot of them. I think this Halloween season was the first time I've actually experienced like live scary, and I kind of have mixed feelings about it.
In your neighborhood, are you attending a sick Halloween party?
Not in my neighborhood, but we did recently meet a couple of friends at the winery we go to that throw a sick Halloween party every year. So we'll be going to that.
Well, I'm boring, and I put a bowl by my door, and I just hand out candy. It is spooky season, and it is fun for us to get into our spooky movies. But I got a couple warm-up questions. I'll start with you, Marissa. We're covering a movie tonight with a haunted location. We've seen haunted summer camps, haunted amusement parks. Where have you visited in your life that has felt the most haunted to you?
I grew up kind of in a strict religious home, so this is a kind of cliche answer because, a lot of scary movies have the kind of church religious horror backdrop, but there was this one church that my family and I would go to on first Saturdays, and it was kind of out of the way because it was the only church that had, that time mass that we wanted to go to. And I think it was just so unsettling because it was so far out of, the perimeter of, our house and neighborhood that we usually stayed in. And it was we had to drive past like Schlitterbahn and this like year-round Christmas store. So it was kind of disorienting to get there in general. But then also it's definitely, I think, the quietest place I've ever been to. Like, you could hear a pin drop in that church. And there were other people in the pews, but I kind of always got this, like, ghost-like aura from anybody who was sitting in there.
Haunted church.
Definitely scared me as a child. It was a spooky, spooky place.
atmosphere of that church was aura farming.
Yes, exactly.
Definitely. Yeah. Is that it's funny you mentioned Schlitterbahn, as our worldwide audience might not know, but that's in New Braunfels, Texas.
Mhm.
I actually work right
that's
by
a
there.
super popular name.
Yeah, I might be I might be actually near that church, or the remnants of that church, or the
Ooh.
spirits of that church.
Or it never existed.
Ah, or it was never there.
That church hasn't been there in 40 years. Ooh.
The first Saturday of every month. Marissa, we stayed home that day. Bryan, same question for you. Where have you visited in your life that has felt the most haunted to you?
This is complicated. In college in West Virginia, we went to our designated haunted prison, which is Moundsville Penitentiary. It is super spooky, and you can feel the vibe. However, the runners of Moundsville for tours did the dumbest thing ever, and they dressed the place up with cheesy Halloween scary stuff. So we're in the building that horrible things happened in, but it's like a haunted house
Yeah.
with crappy stuff. So that's the reason I put the caveat in there, because they could have just marched us through the regular prison, put us in a cell, whatever, and that would have been exponentially more horrifying than what they actually did, which was dumb. So that's the first thing. However, there is a place that I would love to go, and it's very difficult to do now because the ground is still on fire. And that is Centralia, Pennsylvania, which is the town that they based Silent Hill off of.
Oh, cool.
Centralia, Pennsylvania is a coal town, and the coal underneath the town caught fire, and it has been burning for like 100 years.
For years. I knew this.
Yeah. And there is steam and smoke coming up through cracks in the pavement from these coal fires that are literally still burning. They won't allow anyone to move there. I believe last I checked, there are still some inhabitants that were there, in whatever legal sense that they can't get them out. But It is mostly an abandoned town, and it sounds awesome. And I don't know how they have it blocked off, but if I ever snuck into a place, it would be that.
This is the part where we're talking about haunted places, and we can tell, like with what you just described, Bryan, that is like a desire to go. And I think there might be some listeners, and even some of our co-hosts, would be like, no, nope. I want to stay away from there.
Actually, that sounds like a bad place to go.
Yeah. But for me, I'm thinking like, man, that would be cool to experience. I knew about this phenomenon.
Interesting.
For me, yeah, I went down to St. Augustine, Florida, somewhere like 15 years ago. No, even longer. I think 18 years ago. And in St. Augustine, there's a fort on Matanzas Bay or Matanzas Cove. Matanzas in Spanish means slaughter. It's actually named that due to a fort that is a little bit further north of the town, Fort Matanzas, where it was a very particular story about Spanish who were lining up, English or French, don't remember, sorry to conflate the two, soldiers, and they would line them up one by one, and they would ask, do you accept the Virgin Mary? And they, as strong Protestants, would say no, and they would kill them one by one. And only one of this entire fort kind of betrayed his own faith and actually said, yes, I'll accept the Virgin Mary, and they let him live, and they tell the story. Well, I went to one of these forts, and it's these bastions that stick out into the ocean. And this fort, you guys might be familiar with these, I did a haunted ghost tour of this city, and going to that fort in the dead of night was one of the best experiences I've had on a vacation. They talk about like what you can see and what you can hear, and we walked through the dark torchlit areas of this fort. But I remember one other thing. I didn't have to like pull up details about this. This is like just solidly in my mind. One of the cool things about this place was they say that sometimes you can see like cannoneers, like manning the guns that are still there. And I loved the Spanish names. They gave these two cannons names. There's a cannon that shoots straight. Audience, a cannon shoots straight out. It's got just a slight arc to it. and they named it the Daedalo, like Daedalus from Greek mythology, because it flies straight. But they also have a mortar. And if you know ship combat, mortar goes up and then falls down. And they called that one the Icarus.
Great, good.
It's like so flavorful. We all just did like this nod of like, oh, that's cool.
Deep appreciation for that. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I think haunted movies, haunted genre, this idea of like real world connection is just so intriguing to me in general. What's the last movie that you saw, Marissa?
Up until this Wednesday, it was going to be She's All That. I'd never seen that one before, but that's not what I am going to say. So I got Ray, my boyfriend, to watch Good Boy in theaters. I don't know if y'all have seen the trailers for that one. He's not typically a horror movie fan, so I get an allowance of one per year that he'll watch with me, and it was excellent. I mean,
sweet.
Very scary, so would recommend that one.
I quite literally, first time I saw Good Boy as an option, I was like, does the dog die, Doc?
Yes.
No, he does not. Okay, it's on the list.
Absolutely.
One of my favorite instances of this was I started watching Prey, which was the Native American Predator movie.
Yes. And
within the first 5 minutes, became very apparent that the dog was a very central character. And I was like, pause. Oh, thank goodness. All right, play. I was like, I'm not doing this if Predator is going to off a dog. It's not going to happen.
You have to be a credible threat. You have to be a worthy warrior for the Predator to consider you.
Oh, dude, that pup was a worthy warrior in that movie. I just needed to make sure that he survived it.
Well, kudos to that dog. Bryan, what's the last movie you saw?
I watched Weapons. Really enjoyed it.
I don't remember. What's Weapons about?
Weapons is the one with the kids that run with the arms behind them. You know what I'm talking about?
What do they call that? Naruto running?
Naruto running, yep.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
Pretty fresh. The only person that I really recognized outside of Josh Brolin in it was Wong from Marvel movies. Benedict Wong.
Good Boy and Weapons as recommendations, and I'll give you a third recommendation. This was a rewatch for me because of the time of year, which is the Jessica Biel and R. Lee Ermey Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. I mean, of course, I like the original, but I like this remake. Bryan, what you have? Looks like you have an immediate thought on this remake.
It's just funny that you brought that up because if I had not have watched Weapons, my answer would have been the Freddie Prinze Jr. and Jessica Biel movie Summer Catch.
Summer Catch
was the last movie I watched. And it's funny because you brought up Jessica Biel and I was like, wow, I really dodged a bullet having that not be the last movie I watched, so I'd have to cop to it.
Bryan, can you tell me, what are we covering tonight?
We are covering The Others.
From 2001, starring Nicole Kidman, Fionnula Flanagan, Christopher Eccleston, Elaine Cassidy, Eric Sykes, Alakina Mann, and James Bentley. $17 million budget. It grossed $96 million domestically. That puts it 21st in the box office that year. It was just behind Vanilla Sky at number 20 and just ahead of number 22, Legally Blonde. Like worldwide phenomena, Legally Blonde. This should tell you, audience, 24 years ago. Yeah, right. Kind of a surprising. 24 years ago, this movie was a hit. You know, it might not be top 10, but it was a hit. A lot of people seeing this. Number one movie that year was Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. On IMDb, The Others has a 7.6 rating. And our Rotten Tomatoes scores, the critics' tomato meter is 84%. The audience score, slightly lower, at 77%. We had some nominations, Golden Globes. Nicole Kidman was nominated for Best Performance by an Actress in a Motion Picture. Nomination again for Nicole Kidman for a BAFTA, but also Best Screenplay for Alejandro Amenabar. It did win at the Saturn Awards, Best Horror Film, Best Actress Nicole Kidman, and Best Supporting Actress Fionnula Flanagan. Well, this was brought to us by Marissa. You said, hey, I've got a short list for you. It included some interesting stuff. I think we were intrigued by potentially doing Onibaba, but we chose this one instead. So what's your background with The Others?
Yeah, so this was kind of a bit of a fluke that I had seen this one before. As I mentioned, you know, kind of traumatic religious upbringing. So most of what I watched when I was younger was a bunch of, you know, religiously coded cartoons and, you know, VeggieTales, stuff like that might be a little more familiar to people. But it was kind of strange that I saw this for the first time in the early 2010s, but I had to confirm with my sisters. I was like, did we see this as children? And also, why were we allowed to see this as children? As kind of the only real, non-religious coded, there's a little bit of religion in there, but movie that we had seen as children. So
not in the way that it would want to be presented to you.
No, exactly. Which looking, watching it for the second time, I really appreciate it. And again, doubled down on my confusion on why are we allowed to see, this movie that kind of portrays the cracks in religious beliefs.
Yeah.
As children in this, kind of stricter Catholic home. It stuck with me. It was, super scary as a kid. Obviously, watching this is one of the few, probably the only scary movie I had seen up until that point.
Wow.
And so I didn't know what to expect going back into it, other than it really freaked me out as a kid. I hope it really holds up. And I honestly found that it did. Probably not to the extent of fear, as a 14-year-old girl.
There's a lot to say about coming back to something after 10 years, especially if you haven't watched it again. I frequently say to my co-hosts, hey, I watched this 20 years ago. Is this any good? Mm-hmm. And sometimes I've already placed the answer for me. It's maybe it's not. And it was just something introduced to me when I was young. Bryan, what's your background with The Others?
I absolutely saw this in theaters on purpose. I don't really remember any of the attitude toward it at the time. I remember, obviously when the movie came up, I was like, oh yeah, that was spooky. I did get the pleasure of introducing this movie to my wife for the first time on this watching. And one of my favorite / least favorite things that she does is ask me questions the entire movie. And I just folded laundry and smiled at her the entire movie as she tried to figure it out via questions to me. I had not seen it since I saw it in theaters. So it's not that it was I don't like this movie, I'm never going to watch it again. It's just one that never came up again.
For me, I had not seen this before. Surprise, surprise, audience. I haven't seen anything. I don't know why I'm on this show. So this was brought up and I said, all right, yeah, let's do this. And movie poster showed me something. The movie poster was done in this kind of painted style, which I thought looked so cool. And but I looked up nothing. I just sat down and watched. So my expectations were, yes, haunting. That's it. It was just my presumption. First 5 minutes, you're given this gray backdrop and you're thinking, okay, I think I know what I'm in for. And the atmosphere will come in and help you out. I think this movie does hold up today, mainly because I think there were choices made here that keep it in a special spot as to what was chosen not to be included in this movie. And restraint from our filmmaker's side sometimes makes something special. Instead of trying to go all out with whatever was available in 2001, instead what we have was just atmosphere and storytelling. And I think this movie does a great job with it. But before we get there, we're going to take a quick little break, little spot ad for one of our other friends from another show. And when we come back, Bryan's going to give a plot summary. See you on the other side.
Welcome to the All 80s Movies Podcast.
I'm Bill.
And I'm Jason, and this is the podcast where we talk about the blockbusters, the flops, and everything in between from one of the freshest decades for movies, the 1980s. So whether you're a brain, a jock, a valley girl, or a Jedi, we've got some 80s classics for you.
Do these movies stand the test of time? Are we discovering something new? Is there an 80s movie we're finally watching for the first time?
Join us each week as we dive into the cinematic nostalgia that inspired and influenced a generation. From the hits to the cult classics, we'll discuss our earliest memories, favorite scenes, fun facts, and our not-so-favorite movie moments, too.
It's the All 80s Movies Podcast, now available on all major streaming platforms. Please subscribe and happy listening.
And we are back, and this is your final warning. If you have not seen The Others from 2001, then it's time for you to pause us, go watch this movie, and then come back and listen to us talk about it. Bryan, you got a plot summary for me? Take it away.
Set in 1945 on the remote island of Jersey, The Others follows Grace Stewart, a devoutly religious woman raising her two young children, Anne and Nicholas, in a dark, fog-shrouded mansion. Her children suffer from a rare photosensitivity condition that makes sunlight deadly to them. So the house is kept constantly dim with curtains drawn and lamps used sparingly. When Grace hires 3 new servants to replace her mysteriously vanished staff, strange occurrences begin. Doors open and close by themselves, footsteps echo through empty rooms, and Anne insists that she has seen the others, a mysterious family that supposedly shares their home. As Grace's fears and paranoia mount, she becomes convinced the house is haunted. But as she investigates further, the shocking truth is revealed. Grace and her children are the ghosts. They died some time ago, Grace having killed her children and herself in a fit of despair. And the others they have been seeing and sensing are actually the living occupants of the house who are trying to communicate with the spirits haunting it. It ends with Grace and her children accepting their fate, choosing to remain in the house together as its spectral inhabitants.
I was torn a little bit with what I wanted to start with for this movie, which is great. It means that there's a lot of interesting things about what we're presented with. Initially, I was going to ask, and I was going to lead to our guest, is, how easily does this atmosphere draw you in? But I think we can talk about atmosphere later. Bryan, in the plot summary, you brought up the thing that matters. Reverse haunting. That's what we have. It's from the other side of the coin, which I think is, once revealed, so great, and upon a second watch, pretty cool. So it's from the opposite perspective. Once you know, this movie gives you so much. So Marissa, tell me about how this reverse haunting, what it made you feel when you experienced it.
Sure. I think the second watch, obviously you get a lot more because you know the twist, and kind of like Bryan was saying, that's one of the things that stuck with me, obviously, from watching this movie is realizing you are watching from the perspective of the ghosts the entire time. So I did watch it with my boyfriend, and he hadn't seen it ever before either. So I was getting actually kind of nervous seeing some of the treats the director left for us. I was like, is this too obvious? Is this, not so clear that they are the actual ghosts? But, Ray never got it until, it was revealed. So that kind of speaks to the director too, and his restraint with how many clues he wants to put in versus, making it believable as a reveal at the end, but also not giving it away too early to the audience.
Sure. I think that this is a novelty. It is special. Sometimes the word novelty has the connotation of that it's cheap. But there is something that I guess we'll say it's unfortunate that this happened nearby 2 years earlier was The Sixth Sense. That's all I'll say. However, we're not going to even talk about that. We are dealing with something that is different, aside from the word twist. And Bryan, I kind of want to kick this over to you. You had seen this before. You made a point to go see it in theaters. When it sets in, maybe you figured it out earlier than the movie tells you.
I don't think my first watch that I caught on before the mic dropped, but on my watch for the podcast, I started wondering because I'd forgotten about the husband piece. And it seemed, granted, I knew the twist, so it seemed on my second watch that it keyed in on a memory of, well, something's clearly not right here. That guy's definitely dead. So I can't say, oh yeah, I caught on early the first watch through, but I do have a memory once the husband was reintroduced on my second watch, a memory of me being like, well, he's not alive.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think I put it together that they were all dead.
Something must explain this, and it is okay if the movie doesn't explain it to you. This is great, as I was going to bring this up later, is I'm the lucky one. I didn't know the twist. I get to come in brand new, and that's just one of the best things about this show. So I get to come in new, and I was going to ask, all right, so we've got Eccleston coming in. We've got Charles. He comes back home through the fog. The fog by itself, by the way, a great clue or treat. Is it safe to let her leave? Don't worry about it, Mr. Tuttle. The fog won't let her get very far. It is at this moment that we have something that is unexplained yet, but so very clearly, okay, something is going to have to keep her to the house. But now I'm gonna pose an actual question here. Marissa, whether you think or you know that Charles is dead, could a case be made that he isn't, and that what he's doing is experiencing an empty house, which is why their interactions do not get very meaningful or past like the first sentence or two? That connection that Grace is longing for with her husband and the father of her children, and the described like, oh, I sent, your daughter Anne could not be consoled. I sent her to your father. We actually don't get enough of what those interactions could look like. So, first, tell me your position. Is he dead or not? And then I want to take the opposite side from what you think here. So what's up with Charles?
I definitely think he's dead. I think it just makes the most sense, with the whole plot of the film. But that's an interesting...
And the war.
And the war, right.
People
That's an
die in wars.
interesting... They do. That's an interesting thought experiment, because it was a little confusing to see how absolutely removed he was emotionally from Grace. And I get, it's the PTSD / the confusion of being dead and everything like that. But he really just had almost nothing to give to her. And I don't know if that's, I was thinking maybe it's some of the guilt coming up from leaving her in this situation and going off to war. But,
right.
You would think a husband not seeing his wife for however long, would have some kind of something emotionally to give to her. And I just didn't see that at all.
Right. We don't see it. And it's by choice from our director, from our writers, that like, this is not a heartfelt reunion. And in fact, as my first watch, I was kind of worried. Is his presence going to throw off the eerie feel of this film? Having and not just for gender roles here, but having some kind of, father has returned home. We've got our protector in this house from these, unseen and unknown intruders. Is that going to throw off our sense of dread? I was worried that it would. And instead, what we get are very brief interactions with Grace. And though we see her sobbing earlier in the movie, very clearly distraught about not just her situation, but like, Charles isn't coming back. The kids don't know for sure. They also don't know their own situation yet either. Is that like this bringing him back through the fog? Bryan, I wanted to ask you before I go on with my flip side of the coin. Do you see what I'm getting at with, if you were to portray a living person experiencing going back to a home that they had left, but there's no one there anymore because they're dead? Is that if you were trying to artistically display that, it might be done with brief 1 or 2 sentence feelings that are expressed out, that you could artistically express a hug, an embrace, or even lying down on the bed next to where you used to share with your wife. It could mean that he was actually coming back to an empty home, and he said, I just wanting to say goodbye to my wife and kids. Maybe somehow he learned the news about what had happened.
I don't think I ever considered it from that angle, and I'll give you 2 reasons why. No luggage, bag, he just stumbles through gripping his coat.
He's got his rucksack.
In a very... I thought he was just kind of grabbing his coat like shell-shocked.
I mean, he's got... I believe...
Did he have a bag?
That it drops with a weight to it, that like he's got like his rucksack, like this is all you kind of get sent home back with.
Okay. All right. Maybe I'm misremembering. I thought he just kind of stumbled through the trees, like gripping his coat.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, he does have a bag.
Okay. All right. And then the general disorder of him just kind of screamed, I died. How did I get here? So there was never a second where I considered him to be living, I guess is what I'm saying.
And you know what? You didn't consider him to be living on your first watch when you did not know they were Grace and the girls were ghosts. And Marissa, that might be the same ways. I don't know when you had learned, or if you, let me ask you this. Are you the kind of person that tries to solve a movie before it tells you?
I do, yes. But I don't know at 14 if I would have had the wherewithal to even kind of guess. I just thought it was weird. His whole vibe was weird. He came back, and once you realize that he's not going to be this kind of comforting force, it kind of, deepens the sadness and just dread ambiance of the movie in general. It's like, sure, he's back, but he's not really offering any kind of support or emotional, just being there for anybody in the movie. Like you got a glimmer of hope, but it was quickly like, oh no, he's just another sad thing in the movie that's kind of devastating.
Yeah. I think as a English or a British, we're talking about the Channel Islands here, so I don't know if it's Scottish. I don't know enough about that side of the Atlantic Ocean. The trope about is a British father the most caring father that exists on the cinema screen? Maybe not. Are they there to provide? Are they there to? They want to acknowledge their relationship with their family, but is it like warm embraces? I'm not really sure. But this was I come into this fully saying maybe the director has said, "Oh yeah, he's dead." Like maybe I'm exploring something that is settled. But here's why I think it's great for the show is that this movie, without full explanation, like you are not told, like here's the Book of the Dead that describes exactly what you're going through. You don't have the handbook for the recently deceased. Instead, you put it together. The idea that a movie with this atmosphere could potentially have a first-time watcher going, it could be one or the other, and both are intriguing, or all options are intriguing. And this is where I wanted to get back to what was initially going to be my first lead-off question is, Marissa, what do you think about this 1945 gray, misty British Isle atmosphere? Tell me about how this set you up to enjoy this movie.
You've got the fog. It's all very ghost-like. It's all very drab. It's all very depressing. It's kind of almost monotone in a way, the whole setting and ambiance of everything. So I think definitely the atmosphere helped explain or express the mood of the movie in general in a way that I really appreciated on second watch, just knowing that they were kind of, in this limbo state.
Yeah. Well, and then on top of that, we also have, it's not every movie where you have a big mansion with wait staff or a butler, or, I mean, we learn about this house having up to 15 servants. We know that it's, 1945. Is that the historical time period, but then just like the social structure is something where it's like, oh, okay. Like, do you find yourself drawn to like historical drama?
Just the confusion of being set in a time where I wasn't alive, obviously, is kind of adds to the mystery, I think, of the movie.
Ooh, I think that's great. Is that it does kind of seem like this is alien to me.
Right.
Yeah. Well, speaking of alien to me, Bryan, we have our three, Mr. Tuttle, Mrs. Mills. We have them walking up to the house, and this is a sort of catalyst for how things are going to move in this movie. How do you look back on these three characters, their presence for, we'll say, the first act, and then as we move on to the second act?
I personally, my favorite part of the three is the way they move in tandem.
Oh, yes.
Both arriving and at the reveal of sorts. That I think is what the real value add to them is, because you really don't get to see much of Lydia or Mr. Tuttle. It's really all fed through Mrs. Mills. So I feel like it adds a lot of gravitas when they're all together. I also absolutely love the whole vein of hiding their graves.
Yeah. And when that is shown to us, which is somewhere between 45 minutes and an hour in. I'll touch on that in a second, but you know what?
The death photos are pretty metal too.
Yeah, the album of the dead, which those were things that was real. People did that.
Yeah. When that part came up, and she's looking through the thing of photos, my wife just chimes up, "They're not my house." Like that book goes outside immediately. Yep. You find that in your house, and you're like, nope.
Right? She just kind of replaced it back where it was. She's like, okay, this is a book of dead people. I'll just set that back, where I found it, and be okay.
She was like, you find that in the house, and it's nope.
Yeah. You pick it up like, oh, nice. Glad we found this.
Yeah, right. Let's put it on the coffee table.
What a cool feature, yeah.
Oh boy, yeah. Great. Ooh, more marionettes and cobwebs? Yes, please.
Are there any spooky dolls here? There really should be some spooky dolls.
It's spooky doll hunt time. Well, what I'm thinking is it is really headed up by our Mrs. Mills as a representation of these three arriving. They arrive. Our first clue that something is off it's unfair to use a second watch here. Our first clue that something is a bit off is not when they're walking up talking about a dead former colleague or a dead former person, I think named Wilson, something like that, as they're describing somebody that's dead. Instead, we get, you answered the ad, but I never placed it. Marissa, did this get you on edge? Like, wait a second, why are they here?
I don't think on my first watch that's something that really stuck out to me, but I did notice upon the second watch, kind of when Grace is inviting them in, the confusion on everybody's face is like, oh, she's just having us in, and I don't think that was the original purpose of them showing up. Yeah,
we're supposed to be wailing at your door.
Yeah, we're supposed to be inviting you into this like in between space.
Now, try to put yourself, if you can, back into your first viewing. Is how did this description of how we must operate in this house? I think these like sort of set of rules early are cool to us. You cannot open a door without first closing the other door behind it.
Right.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely something else going on. Thinking back to the first watch, it's explained, in the way that the children, have this disease, but I was like, I don't understand. It's so strict and it's so just by the book that it adds kind of to that just unsettling, perspective of the whole movie. Just something's not quite right with these strict set of rules that the world is placed in now.
Well, and the person giving us the rules is Grace. She says, you have to follow the rules about these keys and these doors, and you have to keep these curtains closed, and I'm going to tell you how. We get another clue that we would not have known until the second watch, which is, you don't need to tell me about this house. Like, you really don't have to show me around this house. And we learn, 7 minutes later that, like, yeah, we used to work here. We know this house.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is... It kind of puts any heightened sense of what's going on to, oh, okay, that makes sense, until we get the real reveal. But because it's coming from Grace, Bryan, I feel as if maybe we're at this place where, is she hiding something? And I guess what we learn after the fact is, no, she's not. But I really like Nicole Kidman's portrayal of the person that is potentially a secret keeper, who is actually part of a greater circumstance instead, is that Grace, portrayed by Nicole Kidman, has a lot to chew on and play with for her performance.
Nicole Kidman plays severe so well. It's something that I really attribute to her as a very singular trait. And I'm not saying she can't play warm, but I haven't seen much of it. So it's, if you need strict mom, haunted person, like it's...
Was she a Stepford wife?
Yes. It never takes me out of it for a minute to believe that, no, she's simply this severe in all things. Like, that's one thing that I don't think they could have cast better in this than ultra tall, ultra slender, ultra severe Nicole Kidman.
Yeah, and there's a part of her portrayal where it's also it's not sexualized at all. She is alone. She carries grief and baggage, and I think we are given only glimpses where, I mean, Marissa, we are told by her to the rest of the staff, like, all of this and all of the care is for my kids' safety.
Mm-hmm.
But it's through this severity that it comes out. But we are actually given a couple of glimpses throughout this movie, really sporadic, of when she actually gets to show that love or show like it's not all strict school marm here.
Yeah. And I think I might have a bit of history with this type of character. Unfortunately, I do see a little bit of my own mother in her. So those moments of warmness, as sporadic as they are, and I was going to pose this question to you both as well. Did you, I guess, buy those moments from her, or is that just my baggage talking? Because there was one specific moment where she laid her head down on Anne while she was in bed and explaining to her, sorry for being harsh on you and all this stuff. And Anne is awake, but she doesn't open her eyes. And I think that's kind of telling. She's not even willing to be present while her mother is kind of showing the softer side towards her. For what reason, I'm not really sure. But at what point, in the movie, did this character endear herself to you both, if at all? Was it in these softer moments? Did they seem real or like authentic to you all?
That's a good question. Bryan, you want to take a stab? I got my answer.
Yes, I hear what you're saying. No one's ever really endearing in these, in the same way that I'm not sure how much, like kind of something Dustin alluded to earlier, I'm not sure how much love is in an aristocratic English household.
Sure.
Like,
right.
Nothing I've ever watched leads me to believe that there's a lot of hugging going on.
Right.
And that's fine. I've come to expect that, and I'm not even judging it. It's just how they culturally are. So no, I don't expect a large amount of tenderness. Tenderness is something that, especially in period pieces like this, tenderness is something that you expect from a Mrs. Mills, not from a mom.
Yeah, my answer here, it has to do with, there is an overarching, very serious like problem with this character, is that she killed her kids. Okay, so like we have to know that. And so there are some people that would say, well, she killed her kids, there's nothing redeeming, there's nothing genuine, you can't root for that, she cannot be endearing. And it's fair for those people to think that. We didn't know that. We knew was the day that Mummy went mad, and it happened. Like, that's what we have. We kind of have these clues as to something bad happened. And I believe we do learn that Charles did not know that this happened, meaning this has happened while he was away at war. The family is something to root for. Is that I kind of want like them to be able to solve what's happening, this reverse haunting, where the intruders are actually in the future. The intruders are actually people trying to live in that home. And they succeed in driving them away. And that's kind of what you're rooting for. Then you learn that we kind of have this family unit of mom who killed her kids and the staff who were there before. We can all live in this big gray house, and it can be, what are we supposed to say? Fine. Does this movie have what you even consider a happy ending? The way that Mrs. Mills is talking about, like, yeah, this is just how it is, and this is how it's gonna be.
There are two things I want to add to this.
Yeah, go ahead.
One, I would consider this a happy ending in the sense that if I knew I could go on haunting the crap out of my house, like if I just had that on lock, I'd be like, oh, all right, that's cool. The second thing I would say is I would be 100% down with my house being haunted as long as ghosts and I had an understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't creep up on me while I'm in the shower.
Uh-huh.
Like,
not again. Not after last time.
I'll be home at 8:00. If you want to have a chat, I'll pour a pint. You can tell me how much you miss beer, and give me the lowdown on 1928.
Yeah,
like
but
what happened
living
to
in
that
the dead cannot
like I'll hang with
the end
you.
of eternity, Bryan.
Yeah, I will 100% hang with the ghost. But again, we need to have an understanding. Like, you're not trying to haunt me out of the place.
Yeah.
You can give me that ahead of time, like before escrow hits, like just be like, hey, I'm not cool with you being here. I'm going to haunt the crap out of you. There just needs to be some understanding and be like, all right, your house.
Yeah,
bro.
You're right. Beetlejuice has an understanding. Specifically, the Dietzes have an understanding with Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis. Is that they have an understanding. And that's what the best happy ending about a haunting would happen, because death happens. It's happened wherever. It will happen to every person. So the idea, could I get an understanding with the people I'm haunting? But what I think this movie does for us, and Marissa, tell me if you liked this. This movie presents the presence of living in the house. It's not like they're seeing them go about their life. It's only with about 10 minutes left do we even see this tabletop with a seance happening, or some kind of medium trying to contact the dead. They don't see it as they're being normal. They see it as terrifying.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that aspect of the switch, because it's, it was almost like ghosts are just as afraid of us as we are of them.
Yeah.
And I thought that was adorable, like a little spider analogy in there, like how cute to think about it like that. It took away a little bit of the fear for me thinking about it like that. But just to see the strangeness of the main character's actions, like looking at it from a second watch, where there were a couple scenes where let's see, I think Grace like creaks the door of like the piano room or the statue room open slowly. And I'm like, yes, that's a very ghost-like thing to do looking back at it. And then the scene where
good catch.
Anne and her brother are asleep in bed, but Anne keeps closing the curtains while the alive boy is open. Victor, I think was his name.
Yes.
Was opening the curtains. And I'm like, yes, it would be, the ghost action, quote unquote, to close the blinds and take away the light.
From that side of everything that they are doing from Victor's family side is the haunted behavior, and they only get to see glimpses. It's not like full on. We see this sort of uptight mom walking around. You know what? I never answered your question from before earlier. Is that I think that she understands that whatever she did was wrong about about being. We don't know that she actually killed them until way later in the movie, but I think she understands and regrets anything that she had done wrong to her children. That does not clear her. For audience members, that does not clear her. I get your point of how actually connected to her children was she, and I think it's only in this gray, bleak prison of desperation that you hold on to anything that you have. And so potentially hauntings carry along. I think this crosses over several movies and media. Is hauntings carry along generally a particular type of emotion. What's the phrase? Is that ghosts exist because of unfinished business? I'm not sure that we have unfinished business here. I think what we have is unresolved emotion somehow. And that is that, like, our Grace character is now like the embodiment of extreme grief and regret. And I don't believe that our Charles has enough screen time to show us what he embodies. And our children were, in this instance, I believe, completely innocent. So I didn't want to move past your question, Marissa, but that's how I'll answer that. Is that now with anything that this family is doing is the haunting? That is great to attempt to view from Victor and his family's side. Yes, of course they'd be closing the blinds instead of leaving them open.
Right, shutting the piano over and over again while somebody's just trying to play the piano.
Yeah. There's a lot of religious lessons that are being taught. Like, this is kind of the specific way that homeschooling has happened. And then we have like punishment of like, you got to start reading the Bible and you got to just like overtly. Bryan, did you feel like this was zagging us towards a direction of hell, demons, or devils?
She kind of briefly brings up purgatory.
Yes.
Earlier in the movie, and I think this is one of the reasons they put that in there. I actually really enjoy, I would say more so than others, horror or horror adjacent movies with the religious connotations. I think that always adds a level of spook to it.
It adds a weight for sure.
It's like going into a church that was built 10 years ago versus a church that was built 150 years ago. Like you need some soul, you need some depth to it.
Some history.
The feeling of the institution.
Yeah.
And that really is what, when you have a religious piece in a movie like this, that's what it adds to it, because it gives you a sense of gravity within the film. The idea that you have your daughter stand at the top of the stairs and read the Bible from end to end. I mean, that's hardcore. So,
you've been doing this.
It's about time she read the Bible.
So the religious iconography of any movie does add weight, even if it ends up not kind of mattering in the end. As far as it does set us up with, well, we understand from Mrs. Mills' perspective. We understand why she says she can't understand this. It's against everything she was ever taught. And that's true, right? But then I think that is the reason it exists, is to create this problem, within Grace's mind, that this could be possible. a bit like her immediately saying anything about her children. I do not like flights of fancy. I do not like fantasy. I do not like any of that stuff. Do not listen to my children. She doesn't like that, right? So it's because she likes what her perceived truth is what the Lord teaches, that kind of thing. Marissa, I think it kind of adds more to this fuel of, well, how caring can she actually be? Like, she lives by this strict set of rules.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, those emotional outbursts earlier, or where it looks like she's really caring, it's hard to tell how true that is.
Yeah, I think the most real it got for me was maybe the hug in one of the last scenes where they're all kind of realizing what's happened and all kind of coming together as a family unit. She actually admits that, she doesn't know what's going on. She doesn't know where they are. And it kind of debunks everything that she had been standing for in the movie, like from that religious aspect. Like, she's like, oh yeah, you go to children's purgatory or whatever if you don't get baptized or whatever she was talking about. But now, this whole like set of rules and beliefs that she had brought her children up with the whole time is somewhat meaningless. And I think my question earlier about whether she was able to endear herself to the audience, I think I was watching some kind of commentary from the director or something, but that was, I think, one of the goals. Like, you don't want her to be completely, this unforgivable or unfathomable character. She's done this horrific thing, but they do kind of want you to not understand, but maybe like see how she could have got there, like from the grief, and give her some kind of redemption or something. And I think for me, that came from her acceptance that she doesn't have all the answers. She doesn't know what's going on. And she's kind of in over her head with everybody else.
That is a great way of framing how we get to where we get. It's not, I don't believe anybody chooses to be a ghost or to be trapped. And that's kind of what they are. This deserved future for Grace to live in a cold, gray, empty house forever is, we could say, a fitting punishment. But we are given no resolution for, well, the kids didn't deserve to be punished. They exist in this life, in this unlife. They exist in this situation because of the actions of the mother.
Right. Like, how is the husband not also trapped in that house? He just can leave, but the children somehow are stuck in this reality with Grace. Maybe that's more of an extra punishment towards her to just have them.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's possible. Or perhaps, and this is where, like, when we get into the supernatural, things being completely unexplained is fine, or things like we have a basic understanding, but maybe they're not there at all.
Right.
Maybe they are just figments of her own haunting, her own existential torture, and instead they were able to go and fly in heaven with God. Maybe, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's no way of actually knowing the truth. But it would, if you do try to get into the crunchy details of this, you might say, well, I don't believe that Mr. Tuttle or Mrs. Mills or Lydia did anything wrong either. So do we live in a world where if you die, you become a ghost and that's it? Maybe that's the whole point of the religious iconography, is all of that, no matter what you are taught to believe. There's no heaven, there's no hell. When you die, you become a ghost. And this is everyone's life. Bryan, are you willing to go that far with me? They're like, this is just what happens to you. Or is this definitely a punishment for Grace?
I don't necessarily think it needs to be a punishment. I think that, I think the unfinished business thing is really the most astute way to put with ghosts. Like, the kids don't know any better. And that's probably where the purgatory piece comes in, because, they were not developed enough to make that decision. So Ghost Mom makes the decision for them. Especially in this scenario where she clearly has opinions. As far as being trapped in the house, I think that that's probably an artifact of how she felt with her husband away, and, or even finding out that he was dead. It's probably a snap, I've been trapped here for blank and whatever. So I think it's all a vehicle for the scenario you're in. And her scenario was she felt trapped in the house. She felt alone. She felt abandoned. And all of those pieces led her to now her current situation, which
Yeah.
if you don't have to worry about money and you don't have to worry about eating and whatever, I mean, you just get to chill at home all day. So,
Yeah.
let's look on the bright side here.
We definitely can look on the bright side because I believe it's every single movie or every single instance of the promise or the curse of eternal life it's kind of a known quantity for people that indulge in media and in books, is that eventually you don't want this. It's cool for now. You actually do not want this. And what are we left with Mrs. Tuttle? She's kind of, it is nice for her to be explaining things along the way, especially on a second watch, is, hey, these intruders are gone, but there's going to be more. Sometimes you can sense them. Sometimes you can't. That's just the way it's always been. And I think that what we're getting here is, and maybe I'm digging too far for like the director's message, is none of that God stuff, Bible stuff is real. This is what is. Accept it and haunt.
Think of the child care on both sides. Like go play with the real boy. Like,
yeah.
where's
Leave me
Victor?
alone.
You can have a truly symbiotic relationship with your haunted house. I mean, it's like, hey, is the ghost maid handy? She needs a sandwich, man. Like, hook
right. Which one of you does the cooking? Pardon? Yeah. Which one of you does the cooking?
I want a Mr. Tuttle so bad. Like, I've got an acre and a half. Dude, go cover your grave with the leaves. Please.
We haven't brought this up, and sometimes with other hosts, we specifically don't, but I do want to talk about our performance of our children. I think this is the last thing I really want to bring up before we hit our superlatives. But I'll ask you, Marissa, was there anything about these two children's portrayal or just the writing of these characters that stood out to you? Because there's something I hold dear about this movie with only, essentially one watch. There's something I hold dear, and I want to see if either of you guys came across it yourself. But let's talk about our Anne and our Nicholas.
Well, I think Anne, in general, the actress Alakina Mann, right? I just think she does a great job. And I think in everything I've read and watched about this movie kind of in preparation for this is a bunch of praise for her, especially from the director. I watched a couple of interviews with her, and she's just able to understand her character in a way that I would not, expect a child to really be able to wrap their head around and kind of portray, get kind of a background sense of the character and be able to portray that in her acting. So I thought that was super impressive.
I thought that her performance for her character was standout. I also, and when we're talking about one, doesn't mean that we're saying the opposite about the other,
right?
But I really thought she has a lot of lines too. Both of these kids get to talk a lot. They are featured, and I like that they are featured.
I was really just thinking that we need to have a segment on a rating system called "Would Chad Kill These Kids?"
Yeah, we're not always the best.
I'm curious where these kids fall on Chad's murderer meter. I think they do a great job.
They're certainly not Babadook kids.
Yeah, you've got creepy Damien-like boy and precocious style girl. So I mean, they understood the assignment, I guess is what I'm saying.
I think they understood the assignment. I think they everything that they do in this is believable, and I think the thing that I really wanted to pick up on, whether or not you guys sensed it or not, was I think it's really refreshing. We got a lot out of this movie without a whole lot of special effects. A whole lot out of this movie with atmosphere and ambiance and the dread or the sense of something wrong. So huge hats off for that. It did not require tricks to be scary or to invade your mind. But I think the other thing that is another thing that I had praised earlier of the director chose to withhold or not rely on is these kids are, for the time being, relatively normal and believable. They are not unique in terms of sensing Like they're not clairvoyant, that they aren't peculiar or weird. They are kids. Marissa, did you find? I mean, how you've seen horror movies? The kid is always like, oh, like scratching things into
Right,
the
right.
window, or they're talking to an imaginary friend in their finger, or
Yes.
all types of stuff. And instead, what we just have is 1945 British kids.
Right, yeah. Well, I guess I did see a little bit of that in Anne, more so just because she, was so comfortable with the Victor character and the drawing of the family.
Yeah.
Like that was pretty creepy. I'd be like, "Okay, you're done. Out of my house now. Goodbye." At that point. But yeah, in general, they were pretty, normal and, more the obstinate one versus the little lapdog that the boy character is. Yeah, I think just their normalcy kind of lended itself better to the twist or the reveal at the end, is that they're not really the scary things. They're victims in this movie.
Yes.
Which kind of makes it scarier because they are innocent purely throughout the movie.
With their normalcy, as opposed to anything that is actually supernatural or visibly fantastic on screen, is I also feel as if they interact with one another both playfully and stubbornly, like extremely well written lines with the way these kids talk to each other and the way that they talk to mom, or the way that Mrs. Miller talks to them, like, oh, look at your face when you're crying. No crying here. Is that this is it? It all seems as if like they are experiencing it the way that a scared child would experience quote unquote monster under the bed. That Anne does have a peculiar, like, not familiarity, but comfort with, like, no, that's Victor.
That's my friend Victor.
That's him.
I've seen the scary old woman 14 times, and this is the first, Grace is hearing about it.
Well, I love that the medium, right? The one who's trying to reach back into there's a haunting in this house. She's the scary one.
Right.
And in fact, like one of our greatest scares, one of our greatest opportunities for creep factor up high is when we have Anne in her communion dress, and it is from behind replaced with like her kind of old decrepit hand and her irisless and pupilless eyes through the veil with Anne's voice.
That scene, I mean, I when I thought about this movie, I thought about that scene.
That's the one. Okay,
yeah.
Good.
So I was wondering how, I was like, oh, that was the scariest thing I had ever seen. So I wonder how it was going to be on second watch. It got me still. It's still very creepy, but I'm wondering how much, watching it as a teen girl, I feel like younger people have this, predisposition to see old people as inherently scary.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering how much of it was just, oh, it's a scary old lady, so she's that much scarier, watching it from a young person's perspective. I guess she's got the blank irises, so that,
That's where we bring up the lack of special effects. There's nobody crawling on the ceiling. There's nobody that is emerging from a place they cannot fit. There's no and then Bryan, like last thing on this is there's no like threat of actual violence from something spectral or undead, except from Mother. She's the only one that gets violent in the movie the whole time. So I think this puts this movie in, when I had talked about the things that are withheld from it, I think this puts this movie in very, very singular company. I can't think of anything else that I think does so much with purposefully so little.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it's this is a movie, and I hate to keep using this word, but it really sums it up. This is a movie about severity. Like everything about it it's very stark. It's minimalist in a very severe way. And I think that actually is to its credit, because it really is a less is more film.
Well, speaking of less is more, it's time to narrow down our focus. We are now going to get to our superlative section. And Marissa, I'll start with you for The Others from 2001. Who's the MVP of this movie?
I answered this question kind of strangely because, my first answer was going to be Nicole Kidman. Obviously her acting amazing. But what I wanted to put for this one is I just wrote the curtains. So I found the curtains to be just, a great plot point, a great, from room to room, they've got to close the curtains. It's just kind of neatly creates the ambiance, the lighting, everything like that.
Like a representation of unexplained dread. These
Yes.
curtains somehow save us or protect us from something that we had no idea what we were in for. It's a cool take on this question. Bryan, who's your MVP?
I went with Nicole Kidman. I don't think you could do this movie really without her. There are some notable people that I think they could probably pull it off, but I think she's very essential to this.
I do too, and you're right. Is that she does play this severity better than most to have ever done it. And furthermore, is that she's got this almost untouchable beauty. There are a lot of beautiful people in this world. There's some people that have an aura. She has it. She was just coming off of Moulin Rouge, so I know that there's a common trivia fact about this movie, which is she actually quit. She was getting nightmares about this movie.
I would say that the heir apparent, and I'm not trying to be cliche with this, is probably Charlize Theron.
Well, I saw Charlize in Monster before seeing her in many other things. I did not go with Nicole Kidman. I liked her portrayal. I went with Fionnula Flanagan as Bertha Mills. I think she makes the movie. I think it's written well. She represents these other actors in very well. And I think that the delivery of some of these lines and being a secret keeper or being a knower of what's happening just goes such a long way sometimes. So I'm glad her and the other two workers are present, but it's Mrs. Mills that does the real work there, real heavy lifting. Who's your best supporting actor, Marissa?
Alakina Mann. I just found her to be, wonderfully believable. She plays a great opposite to Nicole Kidman's character, and she's always at odds with her for a lot of the movie, it seems. And I just found her to be a believably obstinate child with a strong sense of character herself, which I really appreciated throughout.
Strong sense of character that is not embodied by one singular trait, like inquisitiveness or ingeniousness or destructiveness. She's just a complete little person.
Yes.
Bryan, what's your best supporting actor?
Miss Mills. I don't think you could have found a better person to shepherd a ghost into realizing she's a ghost than the kindly housekeeper.
Yeah.
It's the the Miss Doubtfire role, and it's such a fun thing. It's always one of those, the staff knows more than the owner kind of thing.
Ooh, yeah.
And I thought that was wonderfully believable, because in your head you're thinking, well, there can't be two creepy old women in this film. And you're like, well, one's not you're meant to be afraid of Mrs. Mills, and she's really the one trying to help you.
My best supporting actor was, I think, it's not a record, but 2 out of our 3 best supportings are going to children. I actually chose James Bentley as Nicholas. I do enjoy both performances from our kids. I think he portrays a childish fear, childish wonder, childish combativeness. And I'm not saying childish is cheeky. I'm talking about embodying what it is to be young and unknowing of things perfectly. I mean, he gets a lot of credit to the writers, but particularly when he is presented with something scary, he retreats right away and says out loud, I'd like both kids say in the movie, it's scary. I am scared, which is it sometimes just honest. It is scary for us to be separated, mother. I think that's interesting stuff. I need a hidden gem from you, Marissa, about this movie. What's a hidden gem? Something unappreciated.
Okay, so I was watching, I think, director commentary, like I said before, and there's a little Easter egg where there's a scene with, Grace in the shotgun. She's running around the house. I think she throws open the curtains, and behind her you kind of see the pale face. I don't know if you guys remember that scene, but there's a pale face behind her. When she throws open the curtains, you can see it's just a painting of a guy.
Yes, I remember that very
But the
clearly.
director said it's a picture of Eduardo Noriega, who's the bad guy in Thesis. I don't know if y'all have seen that movie, but he kind of put it in there as something just funny. He was like, I bet you wouldn't, kind of thing, put me in this movie. So he kind of aged up just a regular picture of this guy and just threw it in there as just a funny little treat for people to find.
That's fun.
Well, and he doesn't use a lot of tricks to get the paranormal out there.
Right.
But when you cut to that scene and you see that face behind her, it is the first whoa, that shouldn't be there. And then
Exactly.
within 2 seconds, like throw open the curtain.
It's explained, right?
Right, just like that.
Yeah.
Bryan, what's your hidden gem of this movie?
I'm going to go with Eric Sykes. So, Mr. Tuttle, he is like holding down the groundskeeper roles. He is the graveyard groundskeeper in Harry Potter that Voldemort kills.
Oh.
And I'm like, this guy is just holding down this groundskeeper role.
He's got this market on.
He's like, oh, you need an English groundskeeper? Chip.
You know, would I make him my number one English groundskeeper? I'm not sure. Because
he could be the official English groundskeeper of the Retro Movie Roundtable.
There is a hard second place then, which is our groundskeeper, gravekeeper for the Wicker Man.
He's
very memorable too. But right. You know what? We'll say that Eric Sykes is our first nomination, and we'll put it to a vote a little later.
I want to say his name was Frank Bryce. Frank Bryce is the groundskeeper in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire.
Oh,
amazing!
They got him. Well, for me, this hidden gem came afterwards. It was on second watches. I knew on my first watch that this opening cinematic would matter somehow, but I didn't get it. So on my second watch, which I didn't all the way finish, I'm like, oh, there's something interesting here. And there was something that was kind of an Easter egg, which is that her voiceover begins with the words, "Now, children, are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin." And this is a tie back to an old BBC radio show called Listen with Mother, which would broadcast for 32 years. And it always began with, "Are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin." So this is a particular tie to at least 2, maybe more generations of, here's a comfortable thing from this culture, and we're going to start with something comfortable and move in another direction. And I like choices like that. Marissa, who are you recasting in this movie?
Okay, so I chose the husband to recast. I know he's a really kind of minor character, but I really wanted to see Cillian Murphy as the husband. I think nobody does the 1,000-yard stare, like war-torn, haunted, PTSD type character than him. So I think that would have been a fun replacement.
I think you would probably get no objections from Bryan. He's a Cillian head.
No, that's excellent.
What's your recast here, Bryan?
I'm gonna recast Elaine Cassidy. I want a familiar face here, but also still creepy. So I'd like to see Neve Campbell.
Well, and I guess this is also someone who stays mute. Then it's just interesting. And mine is kind of a cheat here. Is that we keep referencing a priest in the village, and we do not see him, meet him, or get to. And I wonder if they filmed something and cut it. Not sure. He's supposed to show up to the house, never did. But I thought if you're going to have a priest in this movie, then why not Mads Mikkelsen being another person who just by looking at him, you go, you know something. You're hiding something from me.
You have a secret. I can tell.
Yeah. So it's a cheeky choice from my side. All right, a couple of cinematic ones in a row. Marissa, what's the best shot? The singular, cinematic moment.
Okay, so I'm going to say best shot is old lady's hand with the puppet. I know that's more kind of a scene, but I think, since that was the scene that kind of stuck with me for this movie, just that kind of is the movie for me, watching it the second time. That's what I remembered.
Yeah, it's good. And framed from behind, candle on the ground.
Yes.
Sitting on the floor, not supposed to be. That's a cool shot. Bryan, what's yours?
I'm gonna go with the ending scene with the fading out in the window. You're really fresh off the reveal, and the people are leaving, so they basically get what they want, but you're still figuring, you're still dealing with the aftermath of figuring it out, and how they just sort of fade out. I thought was a really good shot.
It is a good shot. It's a ribbon on this. Mine, another version of trickery, which is very sparse in this movie, is Anne. We have a shot where we're focused on her and her hands, and she's moving away from the camera. We're pushing in from behind, and we're watching her about to reach for something. And then from the left is a zoomed in shot of a hand coming in, which looks like something's about to grab her. Are we finally going to get a physical manifestation of a monster or a demon or a ghost or something? We're not. it's just a crossfade of the shots of her own hand reaching for something, and it's a second and a half long that they share the screen of the back of the back of her and something that looks like it's coming to grab her. Within a second and a half, you see it's her own hand. But that's the only version of that sort of cross-faded shot in the whole movie, and clearly done purposefully to be like, we do have two other things that might qualify as like jump scares, old woman face through the veil, and then opening the closet when they're hiding. That's it. Mm-hmm. So we have this other one where it's like this thing reaching, and we had a similar scene where Victor touches face to prove you're real, and we see a hand touch his face. Is that I think we are like sort of consistently teased throughout this movie is, no, there's something. Not going to show you though. And I think that helps our audience's experience. Give me a best scene, Marissa.
Maybe the first quarter of the movie, but Grace is doing embroidery on the couch. She's just told Mrs. Mills to tell Lydia off about running and, stomping around. Making a racket upstairs. She hears the stomping and running around upstairs again, and the camera kind of jumps to an up-down shot and moves across the ceiling as if you are the person running and stomping around upstairs. And then you see the chandelier shake and everything. And then it cuts back down to Grace, like looking out the window, noticing something. And you see Lydia and Mrs. Mills outside. So you realize that, oh, it's not Lydia running around. It's something else. And maybe the first sense of fear or something is not quite right in this house kind of sets in for Grace. Yes.
For Grace. And that's important. We already know as an audience.
Right.
But for Grace, it happens is that it is not her running around. And she struggles with what the truth is so hard. She accepts it a little earlier. Then she goes back and rejects it after.
Right.
So every chance you get to see, is one of our principals actually going to recognize the thing that's strange? And we are kind of on the edge of our seat, like, please recognize it. Please see that there's something.
It's right there.
And then they deny it.
Right.
And so you go, okay, well, it'll come later. So I think that's a good framing and editing. Bryan, what's your best scene?
I went with this seance. We're not dead. We're not dead.
It is the first time that you have like something like so visibly like representing what's actually happening, and no apologies are made. Like we stay in it. It wasn't like a brief glimpse at what's real and then you don't get it again. Like, no, we stay in that for a couple minutes, or maybe just a minute, but it's long enough to matter. My best scene is Anne and Nicholas in bed. She wakes him up to say, don't you want to see Victor? And it's Nicholas's like, the first thing he does as he's woken up is the first thing any younger brother or younger sister would do, is sees that something is different and immediately blames the sibling. He wakes up terrified. Why did you open the curtains? It wasn't me, it was Victor. And then he doesn't like it, doesn't want to get out of bed. I don't want to talk to Victor. So he turns away, pulls his covers up. He's kind of closing, like, please stop putting on that voice. He's scared. You're scaring me. Please stop that. It's such a very like earnest ask. Stop putting that voice on. And we are then given this thing where the camera is the backside of Anne's head. And you can actually see her jaw moving when some lines are said. And you cannot see her jaw moving when other lines are said. And you know that there's this Victor voice happening, but what is it? And we've talked about like the closing and opening of the shutters. But I think what really pulls it together, it's the reason I chose him as my best supporting, but James Bentley plays scared very well and plays naive very well. And I think there are times when your children actors portray children things very children-like, that's about the only time that having kids in the movie is like, yes,
it's working. But yeah, no, that's a good scene, because even at that point, if you're on first watch, you don't know. You can't really tell if it's Anne just doing a different voice as Victor. Like the voice is a child's voice, and it's not too dissimilar from her own voice, So you can't quite tell whether it's, something else or just herself trying to scare her little brother.
I think it's just a great thing in movies. It's a great thing across all media, is as an audience member, as the indulger, as the reader, as the end user of media, can you ever just not quite tell? And I think that's something that pulls you, that intrigues you to keep going. I'd like a wardrobe or a makeup moment for this movie, Marissa. What's the best one of those for you?
Anne's first communion dress. I think just the juxtaposition between, the old woman reveal and this pure white, unsullied dress is kind of jarring and shocking to see. So I think that really did a good job of, had she just been in her normal clothes, it wouldn't have been as shocking, but it's a stark white, first communion dress that you just see. Children get their first communion, not old women. So it's this extra layer of, that's not right.
Yeah, Bryan, your choice here?
I absolutely ditto that. That is the best instance in the film.
It's my choice too. It's the best. It's a 3 for 3. And it really primed us putting that dress on. First of all, you get to see this is kind of a touching moment between mother and daughter. Immediately with, you better take that off in 3 minutes because I don't want you getting it dirty. Okay, can I wear it a little longer? Fine. But that scene, that dress and that veil really primes you for, ooh, something's gonna happen. Throw in that prop of the little marionette. Yeah, we got some good nightmare fuel. Okay, Marissa, change one thing about this movie.
It's really a small thing, and I don't know if it would actually work with the film in general, but there's this scene, with the last conversation that Grace has with her husband. She opens a wardrobe door. There's a mirror on that wardrobe door, and I really wanted, and in fact, on my second watch, I was expecting the mirror to not show the husband sitting on the bed.
Yeah.
But it showed him, and I was like, no, he's a ghost. You shouldn't. That would be a good little hint, no? But I know in other instances in the movie, you see the reflections, but I was like, that would just be a fun little treat, as they're maybe realizing more and more what they are. The husband has just had the conversation with the daughter. We don't know how much of the reality that she revealed to him. So I don't know. I think it could work if you didn't show his reflection in that mirror shot.
Well, and then you think about other ways that ghosts interact with the world. We have food in front of them, but do you ever see them actually ingest it? Right. There's a bunch of ways that it could work. We didn't even bring up ghost sex. That's where I was thinking, does this happen or not? Is it possible? And if so, good news for ghosts.
Haunting for Eternity just got a whole lot better.
Got infinitely better. Awesome.
Things aren't so bad, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, Bryan, what's your change one thing? I think I just figured out mine.
I wanted more haunting with the real people. You really only get the snippet for the reveal. I would have liked to have seen maybe at least a scene or two more of what it looked like from there. Who keeps closing the curtains? Fine, we'll just take them all down. No opening and closing if we just take them all down. I guess it's essential to not have them in it until the end, but I would have liked to had a little bit more of them getting haunted.
Okay, now I think my change one thing is kind of similar to this. My initial choice was give Lydia something to do. When you look back at it, she's present. She is sitting in the corner during dinner one time. She doesn't say anything. She's kind of the butt of a joke. That can't be the reason her character exists. So I'm thinking to myself, give her something to do. But then I'm realizing is what I needed was just a little bit more, and it goes along with what Bryan, you just said, is I need either more haunting from the alive people or to further confuse for our sleuths who try to figure out the movie. I'd love for there to be another, we've got our family, we've got our second party, which is the help, and we've got our third party, which is the alive people. I'd love for them to be a fourth party, another ghost. Someone who maybe Mr. Tuttle, Mrs. Mills, and Lydia knew when they were alive, or maybe someone that was a ghost that haunted the house while they were still alive. And that would be, I think, another way to add the zig-zag zig, something else to this. But I think, Bryan, what you and me were sort of eyeing was give me something more of the creepy factor of the interaction with the main unit. And maybe that's done, if we have to do this and not really super lengthen the movie, maybe that's done with decreasing our amount of husband time. I don't know. Doesn't have to be a give and take, but I wanted more. I found myself in this atmosphere of this gray, dark island like I could have had more stories here. I said the same thing for Sleepy Hollow, is I kind of want more stories here.
You could even add just like a snarky line, like a one-off, like this extra apparition appears with Mrs. Mills making some comment, and she was like, well, you weren't any easier to convince.
Yeah, that could have worked. Yeah, fixed it.
We're pretty good writers sometimes. Marissa, let's end on this one. What's your best quote of this movie?
Okay, so my best quote actually comes with a bit of a conspiracy theory about this movie that I convinced myself of. Okay, so there is a scene with Grace sitting at the dining room table with the kids. I don't remember exactly what Anne is upset about, but she starts like hyperventilating, breathing really loudly, and Grace is telling her, stop breathing like that, stop breathing like that, stop breathing. Yeah. And so this line is actually repeated again at the end of the movie when Anne and Nicholas are hiding in the cupboard, and Anne is like, stop breathing to Nicholas. So I have taken upon myself to say that this is the last thing the children heard before they died, like as the mother is smothering them. And so that's why it came up multiple times in the movie. This is completely whacked out, on my
I don't
end.
think so.
But no?
I don't think so. Because
I couldn't find anything about it online, so...
No, it's just two incredible minds find things at the same time, and you don't know about it until you invite one on a show. Is that I actually believe something similar, and that I believe that like the stop breathing, especially with the reveal of the pillows earlier, it's the first thing I thought of. As soon as it was like, you suffocated your kids.
Yes.
Is they said stop breathing a bunch. And that's an interesting thing, because it could very well be true.
Right.
Good quote choice. Bryan, what's yours?
There are things your mother doesn't want to hear. She only believes in what she was taught. But don't worry, sooner or later she'll see them, or everything will be different.
And everything will be different. Yeah, it's a cool quote, because this is, once again, like we get to reestablish our Mrs. Mills as like a secret keeper. And like, I know what's going to happen. Like not some soothsayer, right? Not being like mysticism. It's like, no, I know what's up here. Cool quote. Mine, the intruders are leaving, but more will come. And there's actually more to that quote, but that's the part that I liked, is intruders made it sound like evil spirits or nefarious demons or something else that's trying to get you. But just the idea that from the ghost perspective, this movie is the first one I think fully, in my experience, of this is the reverse haunting prototype. And it's really good. Is that's how they must feel. Like Ghost and Mrs. Muir from 50 years before. Is that for haunting movies? It's like, nah, you're in my space. I have to be here. You don't. What's going to budge? You're the intruder. And it felt that way. And it was described that way. It's if a flowery Disney princess shows up to a haunted house, the ghost is experiencing the flowery Disney princess. But in this portrayal of how this works in the world of this movie, is that flowery Disney princess is just making a racket and is doing things that might harm you, not knowing it. And so you have to take a decision on yourself as the ghost to get him out. You're not mad at Snow White. You're mad at the presence in your space. It's a cool thought experiment. Well, before we get on to our official star ratings for this movie, I did talk to you earlier, Marissa. You said that you had something that you wanted to plug locally.
Oh, yeah. If anyone's in the Austin area and, in the market for a pet, I volunteer with the Austin Animal Center. We're at 7201 Lavender Loop in Austin. We're open from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. daily. Adopt, don't shop, foster, do what you can. There's a lot of, backyard breeders out there that you don't know what kind of dog you're going to get from there. But every dog I've met at the shelter has been just an absolute delight and treat. So if anyone's in the market for a dog, Austin Animal Center, we're over capacity right now. So now is the time.
I absolutely applaud you for that work. If I went and volunteered at an animal center, they would all come home with me.
Oh, man. It's every week I've got a new favorite that I almost bring home. So it's, I just started this year, and we got close, very close, on only one so far. But
you and Ray have 2 dogs?
Yes, we can't get a third. We can't.
Well, that's where I don't believe you. And if I came over and there was a third dog, there wouldn't be a shred of my character to be like, oh, that's weird. Instead, it would be only one more.
All right, I'm taking this down. I'm going to bring this to Ray as another supporting
I'm
point.
not saying you should. I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying it would not surprise me at all if you guys ended up with a third or a fourth or a fifth.
We absolutely could.
Well, let's get to our actual rating of the show. We are out of 5 stars. That's how we rate movies, 5 stars being the best, 0.5 being the worst. We do allow half-star increments, but you are not forced to do so. Marissa, you're our guest. How do you rate 2001's The Others?
So I gave this movie 3.5 stars out of 5. I think the nostalgia factor, kind of was my first horror movie experience added to that. I think the twist is great, unexpected. The reason why it's not any higher, I think, on my list is because at this point in my horror movie fandom, I expect to be, truly and utterly disturbed by the horror movie, which I wasn't really by this movie. So I think that's why it's not any higher.
Aha. So there was a genre metric that it could not
Yeah,
hit.
I wasn't, shook to my core watching this one.
We've had this discussion before, right? Bryan, I think that you've got a stance on this is your horror movie should be scary. If I didn't find it scary, it can't be good.
I think that you can have a suspenseful movie.
Yeah.
Like I'm not sure if I understand why this is categorized as horror, but this is a movie of atmospheres. Like, yeah, there are a couple make you jump moments, and that's all fine and good. And you want to really crown it with the feelings that the movie gives you, which is suspenseful, which is anxious and that sort of piece. So I think it does its job. But, when I think of horror in its truest form, I think of something that sinks in and stays with you. And I'm not taking anything away from this film, but it's definitely something that it's got to lay on you a little bit.
Yeah, which I think is something that I like to allow the art to seep in order to give it its full experience, what it deserves. What ended up being your star rating, Bryan?
I went with 4 stars on this one. I think this is an extremely watchable movie. I think it's got more rewatch value than maybe I would have given it credit for prior to the rewatch, just because it had been a while since I'd seen it. I would definitely recommend this to somebody.
I also would recommend this to somebody, and I matched you, Bryan, where I'm going to give it 4 stars. There are things with a small cast in one central location that I always love, particularly when we've got modern movies that seem like they could be all done on stage, like a play style. I think that you brought up something that I normally don't bring up when it comes to rating movies, which is this is rewatchability. I will watch this every year, the same way that I rewatched Nightmare Before Christmas, the same way I rewatched the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, same way I rewatched some of these other horror classics. This is not a horror classic to me. This is a cool movie that's restraint on what was included, keeps it protected from what other horror movies are trying to do. Right. And I tipped my hand earlier, which is like, this is a haunted house movie done unlike other things. Now, it did not achieve the same genre breaking and really epitomizing what Scream is as the meta horror. It did not do that, but it did something that I thought was unique. And I thought that was pretty cool. So I'm gonna stick with 4. Furthermore, and this is actually something that mattered to me with my star rating. It does get better on a rewatch, which I think is interesting, but it didn't do enough to bump it to 4.5. But I would say that Alakina, Mann, and James Bentley probably knock off some established child actors or other horror movie children from the horror movie Mount Rushmore. Like they deserve to be not just in the conversation, but their performances are really good about being a unique type of scared, not quote unquote scream queens, So yeah, 4 stars from me, 4 from Bryan, 3.5 from Marissa. Bryan, can you help me select a movie for next time?
Oh, I suppose. All right. Next week, we have a short list of comedy movies that were remade later in the 90s and 2000s, but we are going back to the original version. Option 1, The Heartbreak Kid, 1972. A newlywed man on his honeymoon has second thoughts about his marriage and falls for a different woman. Option 2, The Parent Trap. Teenage twin sisters swap places and scheme to reunite their divorced parents. Option 3, The Nutty Professor. A timid chemistry teacher discovers a magical potion that can transform him into a suave and handsome womanizer.
Another movie from the 60s that was remade in the 90s is The Absent-Minded Professor, which was remade into Flubber. And I have a chance to plug something. Go and catch me on the Retro Made podcast. I joined Katie over there, and we talked about Flubber. Why? Because all the good movies were picked. So I had to pick that one. But as far as 60s movies being remade, let's go with The Parent Trap, 1961.
Sounds good.
Yeah, Marissa, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. My podcast debut.
That's right. Yeah, and now you exist.
And now I exist
the internet
in-
forever.
Oh,
Internet
that's
is
the
forever.
spookiest part of this whole thing.
Oh, yes, that's the scariest part. And thank you, Bryan. And thank you, all the lord, ladies, and knights of the Retro Movie Roundtable. We invite you to reach out to us. We want to hear from you. Subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Pandora, or wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Give us a like on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at movie_retro. Email us at retromovieroundtable@yahoo.com. Hey, producing and providing this podcast is fun, but not free. We invite you to support the show at our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/retromovieroundtable. Any contribution is much appreciated and will go towards making the show better for you, the listeners. As always, thank you for listening. Be good to each other and watch more movies. Bryan?
How do you live in New York and not have a single Percocet?